Hello, I'd like to welcome you to this overview of Invest Northern Ireland's 8-step practical problem solving webinar using A3 methodology. My name is Jeff Crawford and I'm an operational excellence coach with Invest NI. Due to the impact of COVID-19, companies are facing unique problems and challenges and are often uncertain about what steps to take to ensure their business runs as efficiently as possible. This webinar is designed to help you solve problems better, create an action plan, and hopefully prevent those problems from coming back. By the end of this webinar, you will have a better understanding of the following: what a problem is, why many best practice companies use a form of practical problem solving to improve their way of working, and finally, a better understanding of what the 8 steps to practical problem solving are, and in particular, the A3 methodology. To help your understanding, we've also included a Northern Ireland company case study. For those who want to learn more, we are also offering a follow-up one-day practical problem-solving workshop to go into the process in more detail. Let's start by asking the fundamental question: what is a problem? A problem can be defined as a gap between actual and desired conditions. It can also be defined as an unfulfilled customer's need. Thirdly, as a new level of performance or service is required. And finally, a problem can be defined as a variation. In other words, our performance to the standard varies, meaning it is not consistently achieved. Let's look at a few of the other problem-solving approaches used today by companies before we take a deeper dive into the A3 8-step practical problem-solving roadmap. Depending on the problem at hand, many companies utilize one of the simplest problem-solving methodologies available today, known as Just Do It. In other words, for small problems that may not require much time or resource, it's sometimes possible to quickly fix them and move on. Generally, the solution is known. For simple problems where perhaps a solution isn't known or obvious, a problem-solving method known as the 3 C's, that is cause, concern, countermeasures, can be very useful. For more complex problems where more time and resources required, the A3 practical problem-solving methodology is more appropriate. Let's turn our attention to why practical problem-solving is such a powerful approach to tackling issues burdening you and your organization. First of all, practical problem solving enables organizations that have a common understanding and definition of what a problem actually is, which in turn creates a fast and urgent initial response. Next, a standard problem solving approach removes time lost in debate and in discussion. In other words, organizations are able to focus their valuable time and energy on things that actually matter, such as solving problems. Structured problem-solving approach helps to identify weak points in the processes. It explains with reasons why an incident occurred, and it gives factual representation of the incident. Finally, through planning, root cause analysis, and implementation of mistake proofing, ensures problems don't reoccur. There's nothing more disheartening than to see a problem reappear after it was thought to be solved. Throughout this problem-solving webinar, we will be referring to the PDCA cycle, which stands for Plan, Do, Check, Act. For effective problem solving, we will be spending a lot of time on the first step, which is plan. Failure to properly plan almost always results in longer times to resolve the problem. In other words, rushing through the planning phase only to spend more time in the check and act phases. When organizations take the time to do thorough planning as prescribed in the practical problem-solving approach, they are far more likely to solve the problems faster and far more efficiently, as we can see here. These are some of the reasons why practical problem-solving is so powerful. So let's continue by highlighting a few points on practical problem solving. We'll start with the fundamental question: what is it? Simply put, it is find a problem, fix a problem, prevent the problem from coming back, and monitor the process performance on an ongoing basis. What practical problem solving is not, it's not a magic bullet. It's certainly not difficult, and it's definitely not classroom based. You need to go and see for yourself. And it's not done by one person in isolation. With practical problem solving, many different types of problems can be addressed. These include quality problems, safety improvement, cost reduction, lead time reduction, production problems, delivery problems. And finally, here are some key points on practical problem solving. It's 85% process and 15% people. It requires an open mind. You use the facts and numerical data to guide you. It's good practice to ask the experts to gain information and understanding required to find the real cause. Never assume, don't use your expectations. Go and see for yourself. And finally, try to avoid, we've had this problem before. To wrap up this overview webinar, here's an introduction to the 8 steps of practical problem solving approach, and in particular, the A3 methodology. If you remember, we have already outlined the importance of detailed planning to facilitate rapid problem solving. You can see that 5 out of the 8 steps are focused on planning. In other words, 50 to 80% of your effort would typically be planning. Steps 1 to 3 in particular are vital for the success of solving the problem. To help our understanding of this powerful approach, let me introduce you to Beds R Us, an example of a local Northern Ireland company looking at expanding its operations. Their customer base is throughout Northern Ireland, Republic of Ireland, UK and Europe. Having initially supplied furniture to the wholesale and retail trade, they identified a gap in the marketplace for the supply of beds and mattresses to the trade. Throughout the rest of the webinar, we will look at how they delivered more volume to their customers using A3 thinking and its 8-step methodology. Now let's look at the 8 steps in a little more detail. Step 1 of the process has us clarify the problem. We must clearly describe the problem while going to see with our own eyes in order to get the facts. We want to have a clear definition of what the problem is. We also want to answer questions such as, what does the ideal look like? And where do we want or need to be? Have we identified the gap between the current and ideal state? And whether we have contained the problem in order to protect the customer, even if this means implementing a temporary solution. Useful tools in this step would be gap analysis, a Pareto chart, or even a graph. For Beds R Us, that meant clearly defining the problem they wanted to address. In their case, increasing the existing output of 1,090 mattresses a week in order to meet future growth plans, while also stabilizing the cost of the mattress assembly. Now on to step 2. Once you've seen the problem firsthand, you can begin to break it down into more detailed and specific problems. Remember, as you break down your problem, you still need to see the smaller individual problems with your own eyes. Check the point of occurrence of the problem by going and seeing for yourself. This is a good time to study and gather factual data of the process so that you can effectively prioritize your efforts. Remember, it's much more effective to manage and solve a bunch of micro problems one at a time rather than tackle a big problem with no direction. Finally, in this step, you can eliminate or verify the cause of the problem by saying it if it's visible and measurable. Beds R Us broke down their overall throughput by product line. The 3-foot comfort product line was further broken down into its process steps and times. A simple graph of these facts highlighted by solving the 2-minute cycle time gap problem of stage 3, i.e. quilting panels, they could increase the daily throughput of the 3-foot comfort units from 78 to 115. In other words, by just focusing on stage 3 of the 3-foot comfort line, they can increase the throughput of that line by 47%. Step 3 is all about commitment and focus. Your attention should now turn towards focusing on what is needed to solve the problem and how long it will take to finish. In other words, what is the scope of the problem and what are you trying to achieve? You should set targets that are challenging, but within limits, and don't put a strain on the organization. That would hinder the improvement process. Good practice here is to set SMART targets. That is specific, they're concrete, detailed, well-defined, they're measurable, they have numbers, quantity, comparisons, attainable, they're achievable, actionable, realistic, the targets consider resources, and that they can be achieved. And finally, they're time-bound. They have a defined timeline in which the activities are to be achieved. Also in this step, you need to check that the target is adequate to address the gap. Also set the criteria, such as impact, cost, and ease, to allow you to prioritize the possible solutions. Finally, in this third step, it's important to remember that this takes us closer to the ideal, meaning that it doesn't have to be a gigantic leap towards perfection. Instead, we will take one solid step at a time. Sometimes it may take multiple PDCA projects to get you to your target condition, each with an interim target. You should, of course, use the SMART criteria when defining these projects. Continuing on with our example for Beds R Us, that meant setting a target of 1,300 units a week. To do so, they needed to increase their throughput by 210 units and stabilize weekly production. Step 4 has us analyzing our information, data, and processes to identify the root cause or sometimes root causes. Once again, to do this, we must practice without prejudice. In other words, we must go and see the problems for ourselves instead of relying on what a report says. During this step, we will work to find the points of occurrence, which is usually the starting point of root cause analysis. As it turns out, there are multiple points of occurrence. So we actually must drill down using the things like the 5 whys and root cause analysis. Some problems, of course, will have more than one root cause. Therefore, you need to prioritize and rank the root causes. A proper root cause analysis will point to the action needed, namely the removal of the root cause. For our company, unfortunately, there wasn't any historical key data which could be analysed to help understand the problem. There was also a lack of visual targets at key stages of production. Key production posts weren't even covered full time, and there was a lack of cross-training, and the demands for beds as well was seasonal. By going through this exercise of root cause analysis, Beds R Us concluded there were many factors that impacted their goal of more throughput. Step 5 of the practical problem-solving process is to develop countermeasures or solutions. Develop as many potential countermeasures stroke solutions as possible. These should become apparent when analysis has gone to the appropriate level. Develop solutions or countermeasures for each root cause. These also should include experiments devised to address the problems. You need to identify an effective solution or solutions that directly addresses the root cause. You can ask questions like, will this solution truly fix the root cause? Could this solution create a new problem? Don't rely on past experiences. Try and narrow down the solutions to the most practical and effective one using the following criteria: the impact, cost, ease, and feasibility. And most importantly, it's crucial to get buy-in from your team. Beds R Us identified several countermeasures for their issues mentioned previously. For example, regarding the issue of lack of visual targets at key production stages, they identified the installation of visual management and display boards to show production requirements, KPIs, progress to achieve them, and improvement opportunities. Regarding the lack of space for stocked items, 3 countermeasures were identified: selling off redundant machinery, which took up primary space, zoning off a dedicated area for storage, and the purchasing of additional trailers for loading throughout the day. Step 6 looks at seeing the countermeasures through, implementing them quickly as a team. To accomplish this, it's important to seek the help and, more importantly, the ideas of many people. You will also want to communicate the status regularly by turning the PDCA cycle again and again. The best advice at this step is never give up. You no doubt will hit obstacles and challenges, but your willingness to persevere and battle your way through these situations may mean the difference between success and failure. Beds R Us seek the help of the team to carry out their countermeasures. Each countermeasure was assigned to the appropriate person and given a completion date. They also reviewed these on a weekly basis to ensure that they were completed on time. Step 7 is often called the follow-up phase as we monitor both the results and the process. During this step, you will want to ask the question, was this an effective countermeasure or just luck? Be brave enough to assess the impact of the changes and ask questions like, why were the countermeasures successful, or did they actually fail? Did the countermeasures have the desired impact? Did we actually achieve our target? A good practice here is to collect data for a sufficient period to ensure those results are sustained. Also, you should evaluate the process that was used. Beds R Us monitored the production results over a 5-month period to confirm the increase in throughput was sustained. The results and processes were also reviewed on a weekly basis and any issues addressed as required. As you can see, they actually achieved the 1,300 units per week average target. This equated to an annualized additional capacity of 10,920 units, a 19% increase, generating £425,000 worth of additional revenue. By addressing the issues that caused the throughput problem, Beds R Us were able to deliver more volume to their customer. Some of those issues that were addressed were visual implementation of the production schedule, targets set that so everyone now knows what a good day looks like, and a daily huddle was introduced to understand the production constraints and help improve communication. Finally, step 8 of the practical problem-solving method challenges us to standardize and share success. In addition to building on successes, we also must face and learn from unresolved issues. We should never shy away from these challenges, as failures to address them could lead to problems reoccurring in the near future. In this step, we should establish the new standard with updated work documents and practices, standard operating procedures, etc., and communicate to all relevant staff. We should share the process and outcomes along with the success from our problem-solving efforts. And finally, during this 8th and final step, we must set the next targets for improvement, since the phrase "no problem is a problem" is so very true. Here are some of the successes Beds R Us had from using the A3 8-step practical problem-solving methodology to address their throughput challenge. The list is fairly typical of the companies we coach. Visual management to give better communication and more input from team members to solve problems are usually good starting points to driving performance in any business. And that covers the overview of the 8 steps of practical problem solving, summarized here with the A3 template. This is a brief overview of the 8 steps in this webinar. Throughout the one-day practical problem solving workshop, we're going to take you on a deep journey through each step as we coach you through solving your own particular problem using this powerful A3 8-step roadmap. If you would like help or advice on anything that we've covered throughout this webinar, or for further information on our one-day workshop, please email opexquery@investni.com. The Operational Excellence team can help improve the productivity, profitability, and competitiveness of your business through a wide range of principles, tools, and techniques. Whether it's practical problem solving or workflow improvement you need assistance with, or strategy deployment and alignment, our tailored support can help you. That concludes this Invest Northern Ireland 8-step practical problem solving using the A3 methodology webinar. Take care and thank you for watching.
Hi everyone, thank you for participating on our webinar today. Before we move on to our question and answer session, there will be an evaluation question on screen. If you've answered that question, that would be great to give us some feedback. Okay, so we'll move on to our first question, Jeff. Okay. What are some of the examples of problem-solving skills?
Well, some of the skills that I see would be active listening, particularly by leaders and others within the organisation to maybe where the problems are happening and listening to the team, what some of those issues are. Probably one of the key skills is never assuming, as I said in the webinar, it's go and see for yourself. If somebody's telling you about a problem, rather than just take their word for it, it's just go and see and analyse and understand the key problem. Other things in there would be like communication, clear communication with the team members, etc., to try and help solve the problems. And then probably decision making, trying to focus on what is the key problem you want to fix, rather than trying to a wide range of problems that you're trying to fix. What's the key one you need to solve within there?
Okay, no problem. And the next question is, what makes a good problem solver?
From the companies I've worked with, the better problem solvers are ones that would question more. They would they try and build networks with the right people to get around them, the experts, the people that are maybe using the process. They have a skill in bringing maybe the people together, sharing that knowledge and information. And probably also the person that's that's maybe leading the program is that they're trusted by the others within the team as well.
Okay, and our next question is, what's the first thing you do when you're entering a company who doesn't know what's going wrong?
Oh, that's a good question. I think sometimes it's asking the right question to try and understand what their problem is. A lot of people think they know what the problem is, and that's why the very first step is really going to have a wee look to see within the processes. Maybe you could do a waste walk within your company just to understand get the lie of the land and understand where those problems are. But again, even with that first step, it's a wee bit of education to understand how to actually address a problem and understanding what the problem is to start with.
Okay, is the offer of support open to all businesses?
That's a good question. It will depend. Obviously, normally we go through the routes of Invest Northern Ireland customers. That's something that maybe they can put a query to yourself at the OVEX query, Kathy. Probably there will be maybe a one-to-many. We may do a webinar, a more extended webinar, shall we say, that goes into those points in more details that everybody can log on to give a wee bit more detail. The thing I would say would be, with what you see there in that particular webinar and the slides are available, I would go ahead and download those slides and then pick a problem yourself, something that you feel may be easy to do. Have a go at it. And then maybe come back to us and say, right, okay, I need help with X, Y, and Z. But I think the starting point is for you to actually have a problem that you could probably solve.
Okay. How long would a typical project last? And is there an ideal number of people to get involved?
Normally, we would try and scope a project for maybe 2 to 3 months. Certainly with the companies I've worked with and my colleagues work with, anything greater than 3 months, you tend to lose interest. You really want to try and get it within the three months. Number of people in there, you would probably pick maybe 7 or 8. Again, it depends on the problem, it depends on the area of the problem, depends on the magnitude. But I would say maybe 6 to 8 people in that, that sort of problem to help fix it, solve it.
Okay, no problem. That's great. So that's all the questions addressed. Again, if you would like any further information, please email our OPEX query inbox and we'll get back to you on that. So thank you for taking time out of your day, participating on our practical problem solving webinar. That was great. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, cheers. Bye.